Well, I found it. I finally found the moment of awakening, realization, consternation, frustration. I realized exactly how old and unhip I really am. Boy, was that a kick in the teeth. And uncool. I mean, I call this thing the Cool Dad Rules, but that's just irony. That's because my kids don't think I'm cool at all, so, I had to get back at them some way. But thank you for being here. I'm Bill Adams. This is the Cool Dad Rules. Thanks for everybody following along the Facebook page, thecooldadrules.com, but especially, this has been great. And I thank you so much for the content, submissions, the questions, all this other stuff, and sometimes just sharing things to thecooldadrules@gmail.com. So you can always reach out to me, thecooldadrules@gmail.com. Somebody sent me this. I never would have been aware of this. I guess CNN did a story on it before. It got picked up by a lot. I'm not even sure if CNN was the original source in this thing, but it got picked up by a lot of different news sources here, and it's been kind of like fodder for a lot of radio morning shows like we talked about it. In fact, just this morning, the one that I'm on. And it revolves kids battling with each other over emojis and what's totally not cool and totally unacceptable. Like they've come up with some sort of consortium on what's acceptable and what's not. Like they're judge and jury somehow. No, but those kids can't be judgy, can they? No, not at all. Here's what's happening. It's fascinating to watch, just from a sociological standpoint, too. It's fascinating to sit back and watch this thing. The Zoomers, Generation Z, now for definition, those are kids born after 1996. I got a couple of those at home, are battling with the millennials. The younger, kids in their 20s, throughout their 20s, who were born slightly before them, probably a lot of their older brothers and sisters. They're battling it out in the form of social media about the crying from laughter emoji. It's gone huge. It's a huge battle on this thing. Half-hearted, they're joking about it too. But honestly, the younger ones, the Generation Zers, right? They have decided the crying from laughter emoji. That's the one that looks like this. And if you're just listening on the podcast, you have no idea about the idiotic face I just made. But that's the emoji with the, you're laughing, but there's tears coming out. The Zoomers, the Generation Z kids say that that's totally uncool. You can't use it or you're old. And they're actually getting backlash from the millennials who use it all the time who are trying to defend the thing. I'm loving this. I'm like you. Probably, if I know anything about the demographics of this project, you're probably Generation X like me, where we just sit back. Now we have three fights we can watch. We can watch the Zoomers, the Boomers, and the Millennials all fight it over stuff. And we're sitting back like, I don't care. Pour me another beer. This is great. Here's their reasoning, though. And this is where it gets into it, which is fascinating to me. This is what the Zoomers are saying. The number one reason why they say the crying from laughter emoji is not cool. It's become too mainstream, man. Old people use it. In fact, according to emojitracker.com, check it out. It's actually a real thing. I checked it out. It's a real site. Venture there at your own risk. It's not even close. It's not even a close first and second. It's number one most commonly used emoji by 10, 20 to 1. It's not even close. I use it. It's probably, as I think about it, my most commonly used emoji when I'm texting somebody, or if I do an Instagram or a Facebook post or something. I probably use it on the Cool Dad Rules Facebook page. And I got to tell you, when I first read this and talked to other people my age and hashing this thing out, my first thought was, listen, you little whippersnappers, you little punks, you don't get to decide what's cool and what's not. We do, don't we? And then I realized, no, we don't. They do. They decide what's cool or not. We're the least cool thing happening right now, but that's okay. But I will tell you, for them, and my message to them and my message to my kids was when we were talking this thing out, I got a go-to stable of about 5 emojis. Maybe now, no more than 5 emojis I go to. Definitely use the crying from laughter emoji more than any others. And let me tell you something. I'm not changing for you, you little stinkers, just because you say it's uncool. But what got me thinking about this was some of the comments as you dig into social media on this thing of the fights going back and forth. They talked to, well, here's one of them. As I get some more light on this page as I read it, as I prove my point that I'm actually old and uncool. A 17-year-old boy, name is Javier, said the emoji is bland. Not too many people my age use it because it's considered totally, totally uncool. And in fact, it's become an inside joke among the Zoomers. If you use it, you're making fun of older people like us. Man, that's cutthroat, man. I'm sure we did the same thing, but that's just brutal, isn't it? Because we don't even know. We're not even in on the joke. They talked to another girl, Stacy. She's 21. Here's something now that's interesting. She prefers the crying from laughter emoji because it shows a more extreme emotion and feels more dramatic. But she says, get this, she doesn't use it either. You know why? She can't even find it on the drop-down menu on emotions on her iPhone. It's not even in the like the lexicon of anything that she would use. Man, gotta tell you, it's just brutal. So you know what we gotta do? What's the rule on this? What do we take out of this, and what can we do? There's actually two things. First and foremost, I want everybody to promise right now, what's our duty as parents? Yeah, we want to raise healthy, responsible kids, keep them safe, and make them good adults for mankind going forward, right? What's the other thing we want to do? I want to embarrass the hell out of them. That's right. I'm saying it right now. Let's make a pledge to anybody in your group, anybody that's at work, at school, in your house, anybody that is of the Generation Z, born after 1996 age, use the crying from laughter emoji as much as you possibly can. I've used it 10 times today. I'm going to use it right in their face. And my kids have told me, stop using that emoji. No, I won't. I won't do it. I will use it forever. It's one of my 5 in my stable. I'm not changing it for you. I will use it and embarrass you every time I can. And here's how you use it effectively. They'll send you something, innocuous message like, okay, hey, I'm going to the store. I'll be back in 5. Just send them back, okay, with like 5 crying from laughter emojis. They'll hate it. I love it. As long as they're calling us uncool, let's triple down. Let's make sure that we're actually, proving that we're uncool. I don't mind doing that at all. Here's the other thing. Here's the real takeaway on this that you can actually use. We can all use on this, right? They really are, all joking aside, they're kind of like the arbiters of what cool is, right? And tell me you didn't think the same thing when you were 17. Of course, you're going to think anything older is like uncool. Any words, jokes, TV shows that your parents would use or older people use, older siblings, like in this case, use are uncool as well. Of course they're going to say that, and they're going to be able to decide it. Joking aside, we can fight as much as we want. We don't really have a say in it, right? Just like we didn't care about what anybody else said when we were those teenage kids. It's just the way it goes. It's the natural evolution of things. We can joke as much as we want. Here's how it's handy, though. Let's say that I'm hiring somebody that's of that age group pretty soon, right? Coming up when they're out of college or whatever, and they're in the employment arena, they're in the field, they're looking to make a living. If I start communicating with them in the joking kind of manner I did, and I start using this crying from laughter emoji all the time, I really am going to look like a jackass. The joke really will be on me and you and everybody else that's using this that doesn't get the joke, that's not hip on this kind of thing. That's where you really got to kind of listen to it. And it's not so far-fetched. Try this. They won't laugh you out of the room. They'll actually kind of appreciate that you value their input. Every once in a while, and I finally got hip to this because I asked my younger one this, who's 16, hey, I'm communicating with this certain person. If I say this, does this look really stupid? Is this really uncool? And she'll tell me. She'll be honest about that, or what's cool and what's not, and they'll kind of guide you through it this way and that way. Because they're who we're going to be dealing with here pretty soon. Just like the boomers had to deal with the millennials had to deal with the Gen Xers, and everybody else has to deal with the Zoomers now. And whatever generation is coming in next, there's probably the next generation that will communicate only with emojis. I don't know. It's like we've gone full circle. We've gone back to hieroglyphics. This is how we communicate now. So things like that, or any kind of like language you use, anything you do, what's hip, what's acceptable, not. This is really important now. This is actually another thing that they will gladly tell you, and you, depending on how you feel about this, and I have my own opinions as well, this isn't the forum for it. Certain phrases, certain jokes that are deemed unacceptable by that generation now, that are considered offensive, and I know a lot of it is like way too sensitive. I get that too. I'm in the same boat. I understand, but the fact remains, there are things that they just won't be willing to hear. They won't, right? They won't accept. And that's the world that they're going to own here pretty soon, whether you and me, whether we like it or not. it stands to reason that we should actually get hip to this right now and understand where they're coming from. Yeah, this starts with a goofy little emoji thing. I get it, but there's a whole other language here that's involved, and there's a whole other mindset that they just have that we don't have. And we can get hip to it now, or we're going to get eaten by them, down the road. We might as well. So here's the other thing, too. So my point being, don't be afraid to ask them. I've found this on multiple occasions. They'll tell you what's hip and what's not, what's acceptable, what's not, to them. Because the whole goal is to communicate to and with them, right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's really not. Just don't be afraid to send them that crying from laughter emoji as much as you can. I do it all the time to embarrass the kids. For goofiest phrases in the world, I'll use as much as possible. All the time. All the time. I don't care. In a not so serious setting. Because that's what you do. You have fun with the entire thing. That's how you break down barriers. Here's how else this actually does apply, though, too, is in that same conversation when you're talking to them about different things, different ways to communicate, different things that are effective or not acceptable. Get a good feel for how and what kind of technology they use, too. This blew me away. You can hear my dog in the background. He's communicating with me. This blew me away in what kind of technology they use. Yeah, I know they're on their phones all the time. Social media runs their life, too. But we had a conversation once in my house about just news information. I was trying to get a feel for how they get information and different things. And my younger one said this to me. She said, well, news that's not going to be a thing for us. Concerned me at first. I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, I mean news as you know it, like sitting down watching the news. That's not our thing. We're not going to do it. Again, I said, well, what do you mean? She said, we get our information, through mostly social media, admitted that to me, direct sourcing mostly. Like, think about how they actually get their stuff. Most of it's direct source video, not from from a reporter, but somebody independent on the street that's actually there. It's going to be a completely different information world. It really already is, but completely different in about 5 years, too. That's another thing to get hip to. Just be aware of it because it's coming our way. It's totally, totally different. So communicate with them now. But don't let that scare you away from embarrassing them. It's part of our job. Do it. Send the goofiest emoji. Send the dumbest dad and mom jokes you have. Do it. Send it to them. Embarrass them. Part of our job, too. Thank you so much again. Thanks for sending me this. A couple of people sent me this. I appreciate that so much. To thecooldadrules@gmail.com. It's thecooldadrules.com and the Facebook page and all that stuff. And I really appreciate you sharing along the podcast as we figure out this parenting thing together. There aren't any experts. There's none. There's us. There's you and me hashing this thing out together. We'll figure it out. Through our mistakes? Okay, through my mistakes. Make fun of the goofy old man. We'll talk to you soon.